Hello, and welcome to Unspoken CEO Conversations. I am Andrea Cecilia Gidan, Executive Mindset Coach, and I'm excited to be here with you. I wanted to thank you for taking the time to participate in this conversation. And even if you watch it later on, the space is yours. And I would love to hear comments as we go along through this presentation. Today, we're going to unpack what you're not saying is already shaping how you lead. It's very important that we start to understand the impact that we have in ourselves and others. So today we're going to unpack 3 points: the importance of what is not being said, the power of the inner dialogue, and the strategic boundaries. And I always remember that if you are ready to take an action, you can DM me directly and we can expand the conversation that we are offering today. So the first thing that I would like to share with you is, what it has meant for me, the truth that it has not been said. I'm going to take you through a journey through my personal story. So that way you can see how this has been my experience as well. I was in sales and marketing back in 2008 and before that. And I was driving to go to work, and someone crossed their car in front of me and started to scream at me, telling me that I was in fault, that I had hit their car, which it wasn't true because there was no evidence in exchange of color paint. But the important part of this is I was in sales and marketing for a very long time. I was the only one person for the department for whole Latin America, doing the customer service, the sales, the marketing, the visits, the everything. And it was very difficult for me to achieve anything because all my energy was trying to hold all these dishes up in the air. My boss has given me a quota for the month. It was 2 days before the end of the month, and there was no way for me to meet those sales. And my stress, it was over the limit. I was stretched before, I was stretched more than I can even explain to you. And at that time, I used to suffer from migraines. I had a horrible migraine, but I was so committed to deliver what it was absolutely impossible to deliver. Yet, I didn't want to look bad. I didn't want to be the one who was going to be blamed or labeled in any kind of way. And so I was not respecting my boundaries at all. And all what I was doing, it was trying to look good. And all my energy, it was going in that direction, not realizing first the impact that it was having on my health and my well-being and my mind. So even though this situation with the car ended in a ticket for something that I didn't do, in an illegal case that it was dragged through a whole year until I finally won. But the beauty of this, even though this was all a drag, it was for me to realize that all this procrastination, that all this resistance that was manifest through this person with whom I had this supposed accident, it was a full representation of the lack of truth that I was having with myself, because I wasn't happy in that job. I didn't feel any kind of realization at any level. I was not accomplishing anything, even though the pay, it was one of the best pays I had as an employee in my life. Yet there was no sense of accomplishment, neither respect from my supervisor. And so there were so many truths not said, so many truths that I was shelling in, and they were manifested in my body as a migraine and as exterior situations like I mentioned before. So this was really a wake-up call. This was the pivot moment where I have to put a hand on my heart and say, what is that I'm missing? What is happening in here? So 3 days later, I quit my job and I took a sabbatic 6 months to have a deep conversation with myself, to realize what it was missing and what it was the shift that I needed to create in order to feel and experience the fulfillment that I wanted so deeply. So what happened right after that is that all these things that they were packed into my body, little by little, by creating this sabbatic time, I was able to release them and acknowledge them. And the conclusion that I arrived, it was that I needed to have some kind of job that it will allow me to intervene in a Zen way. What I mean by that, I always was, and I still are, a natural leader. But it was a moment of silence. It was a moment to understand the power of being present and not intervene. So guess what I decided to do? I decided to become a medical interpreter. And by being a medical interpreter, I was not only translated, which actually is interpreting, not translating, but most people call it that way, from one language to another, and being a culture broker, which is one of the key roles of an interpreter. But also it was to hold space for the communication, for all the things that they were not said in words, but they were happening in the space. And I did this for several years and many, many difficult situations where life it was at stake. And this really helped me to gain clarity of the power of the things that we're not able to express from lack of clarity, for overwhelming emotions, and many, many factors that play a role when we are fully triggered and shivering of fear. And it was something that this clarity, it brought so much awareness, first of all, of what my life purpose was, but more than anything, what it was my power to offer to others. And is this capacity to name what is not being said. And recognizing this, it has allowed me to see that a lot of times CEOs, leaders are hitting the wall because they're trying, as I mentioned in previous cases, they're trying to make the triangle fit in the square. And they keep hitting and hitting and hitting, not realizing that the shift of perspective, taking that step back into the side, is what is going to allow them to get that clarity. Is the silence between thought and thought, is the silence between action and action. Like what I did during that sabbatic time when I took the step back and observing what it was ready to emerge that I've been shelling down and retaining and pushing down in order to overachieve externally, when I was completely suppressed of what it was ready to emerge from myself and what it was the biggest contribution that I have to give at that time. So it's very important that we take time as an innovative people, as leaders that are creating new things, new pathways, as the trailblazers. We need to create that space to bring that clarity and to have those conversations and allow what I'm going to cover right next after this topic, the inner dialogue that is happening within us, where the most wisdom and the most important solutions will emerge. So is one of the things that I wanted to share with you is cultivating, holding this space, so that way we can find that clarity, that flowing and not pushing and not striving in excess to get something. A flower will have a process and eventually will become a fruit. But if I steer hard, it's not going to happen sooner. So one of the dynamics that they are very important about what is not being said is to give space to tell ourselves the truth or tell others, and then be silent. And silent doesn't mean, I'm going to retain this until something happens. No, it means really to relax, to put your mind on something else and allow the flow and the natural process of things to unpack without you being intervening on every single step of things. As a recuperate micromanagement person, I want to tell you one thing. When we are obsessively trying to control everything, all what we're doing is giving our power away instead of allowing the magic of the natural process of things to unpack in their own way and allowed us to give us the gift of that process that we do not have a full capacity to comprehend. We live life, but we do not understand life. We just know how to live it. And so we cannot really wrap around our mind every single thing that it happens to us, but we can shift the meaning that we project into that. So the big idea of this is to understand what conversations are we avoiding to have? What what conversation we avoiding, but also how that is shaping our life. What that thing that we are striving to say and we haven't said and we've been holding back, or what is that blind spot thing that is been there and we have a sense of, of awareness of what that is, but we have not given it a space to fully express. But we know that the more we shut it down, it's like a volcano about to explode. So I invite you to explore within yourself. What is the conversation that you are avoiding to have, either with you or with someone else? What is the truth that you are willing to listen with your whole self and to honor it? So that way you can create the shift just in a moment of what you wanted to have and experience in your life. I just wonder. So with that being said, it's important that we understand that all those truths that we haven't said to ourselves are part of the process of self-boycotting ourselves. Because a lot of times when we are trying to fit into the triangle, into the square, we are forcing something that is not truthful to us. So it takes a lot of courage to honor that truth within ourselves, because a lot of times it creates a conflict with the values that we believe to have, because something that we inherit in our family, because we're looking to be approved by someone, or because we wanted to be following a certain model. And having that truthful conversation, it might jeopardize that model that we have created for ourselves. And we are so scared because we have given our value in that process of identification with that image that we have created for ourselves, when in reality we are constantly evolving, and it takes constant readjustment of what is important to us, what matters to us, what priorities we have, and more than anything, what values are we aligning ourselves with. Because the same values that you have 20 years ago cannot be the ones that you have right now, because you're not the same person. So it's very important that you take time to have these conversations and really explore, because a lot of things also you do not unpack by being solo. This is some intimate conversations, but you need to go outside of to the world and being vulnerable and expressing this truth and exploring with others, even though they judge you. So what? We judge ourselves, we judge others, and others judge us. But when you know that you're saying your truth, this is all what really matters. So allow yourself to be questioned, allow yourself to be judged, because that's going to strengthen the clarity that's within yourself about what is ready to emerge and what are you aiming towards as your life purpose. So it's very important that you take time to cultivate this state, because this is the North Star that is going to allow your leadership to really leave a legacy and to have the passion within yourself to constantly be ignited, because you are fully aligned with what really matters to you. So now we come to the second point of this, the point of understanding the power of that inner dialogue that is taking place within ourselves. And this requires a moment of intimacy, a moment of truth, and more than anything, being willing to be vulnerable. Because that truth that we're trying to avoid, that conversation that we're trying to avoid, is the one that it has the magic and the power to create the shift that you've been craving and trying to work so hard every day by iterating different types of actions that end to be meaningless, because you're not aligned with your truth. You're not aligned with that thing that is dear to you in the deepest way possible. So what kind of conversation are you willing to explore? What all identity are you willing to leave behind, because it's a matter of a version of you that is not actualized, that is not representing who you have become and the leader that you need to be in order to take that leap and have the courage to go to the next level? And just wonder, what is going to take, what you willing What stake are you willing to put on the ground to make this possible? Life keeps moving along. Nothing really freeze or stop. This is just a game of the mind. We cannot retain life. Life is constantly happening. So it's very important that we understand and we honor the flow of life. Because when we align with this, we align with the movement that is part of this experience that we call life. I want to share something with you. My mother is the daughter of two American people. I was born in Argentina, but my mom is from here. And her mother, it was one of the first women on Columbia University in New York to receive an MBA back in the early 30s. This woman had an incredible career, but she met my grandfather at 24 years old. And because she diminished the power that she had, she decided to get married and move to Argentina and become a housekeeper and put all that study and all that investment during the Depression to the side. She became an amazing administrator of the family, yet some deeper truth, it was not fully set for her. She lived as a frustrated woman who didn't express her full power. What happened as a result of that, she was a very cold mother, incredible intellectual who provided an incredible things to her family, give all the resources for them to be brilliant in whatever they did, but they miss that warm touch of a mother because she never wanted to be really a mother. That was, something that it was spread through the family. And then I came about as the result of my mother, daughter of this woman that I just mentioned, and a father who was a romantic, poetic, and visionary, who didn't find a way to land properly, and who unfortunately it was bipolar. And here I was born as the black sheep, the one who didn't fit in a chauvinist country where I have no truth to say, and whatever place I put myself into, I feel like did not belong. My childhood and my teenage years were extremely hard, not because I didn't have the love or the resources, is because I didn't have a sense of belonging. And I dragged this through years, even through my early years of my adulthood, not finding what to do, always very uncomfortable in every setting, and always feeling like something that was off. And I carry this identity that it has made me diminish myself because it was more important for me to fit in, since I did not feel that I belong, more than shine in my own light. For many years, I tried to please everybody. And I was exhausted, I was overwhelmed, and I was really at the verge of, a breakdown. And it took many of the type of events that I mentioned before about the car that really were pivot points where I have to have a very deep conversation with myself. When I realized all this, that it wasn't that I was misunderstood, I was preaching to the wrong audience. When I realized that I didn't have to prove myself, that I always had something very valuable to put on the table. And it was a matter to find the way to bring that message across, but also to find the people who needed my message as well. I finally felt that I was fitting in and that I belong. And all my leadership started to shine. And so now I can tell you that as the high achiever that I always have been, and I always, find ways to express myself, I moved from trying to be in overcompensating with a mindset of not being enough to believe that I always have something to contribute. And if I take that step back into the side and I listen, not only with my ears, not only look with my sight, but using my whole body as a tuning fork to realize what is that thing that is missing, that it will make a contribution, that it will be so valuable that everybody will be ready to receive. So I'm just want to express all this to you, because as I went through this journey, you can do the same and really unpack any unwanted experience by having a truthful conversation, by finding that power in your inner dialogue where that solution that you've been craving for so deeply, you can pull it out. And guess what? If you don't know how to do it, direct message me and I will assist you, because you have all the solutions to your problems. You have all the solutions to your questions. You have all the answers to whatever thing and challenge that presents in your life. But sometimes you don't know how to find a way to it. And that's what I come to assist you. But in the meantime, just if you have a moment, just reflect on these things that I'm sharing with you, because it's so important to find that relief, to see that I must, to shift from I have to fix it all, to understand that it's a time to offer something so that we can be seen for the value that it has offered, that it has to offer. So I shift from be the solution maker for everything to be, in feeling that I was at the burnout moment, to be the one who offers the solution at the right time when it's ready to be received, where the situation is ripe enough where it can land. And guess what this has done for me? No more burnout, no more overwhelm, no more exhaustion, because now I feel fully aligned with the flow of life and with my life purpose. So with this being said, if you feel that something is not enough with you, and that if you feel that you have to constantly fixing whatever thing is missing, what about if the situation itself can offer a solution, and all what you need to do is to allow it to unpack, is to listen and to be present and listen and offer your awareness to pay attention of the underlying conversation that is giving you every single solution that you're looking for. And so I just want to, kind of bring this idea of how the power within us grows when we start to witness our inner story. And when we start to unpack and reframe it in a way that serves the purpose of that growth that we've been craving for. And leaving behind the old story to create a new story that is in alignment to the I am that I need to be right now, so I can take the leap and have the courage, so that way I can up level to what I have envisioned to be the reason that I'm here for. So you don't need to force your genius. You don't need to force any belonging or choose to be, something that you're not. All what you need to do is to allow that truth to emerge and to be said and to be honored. And you will be amazed when you allow yourself to be vulnerable and speak from that power of that truth, the impact and the shift that you do by showing your own process. So now we come into the third point. The third point is the strategic boundaries. And this is not about saying no, it's about what you're saying yes in your truth. So every time you say no to something, you're saying yes to something. So this is a way to reframe boundaries. Instead of focusing on the no, focusing on the yes behind that no. You're saying yes to your body because you're taking care of yourself. You're saying yes to your energy because you manage and you decide where will be invested and where not. You're saying yes to your purpose because you're focusing and iterate in the direction that you said that you were going to be moving towards. So, for example, I want to share something. I am a morning person. You want to get the best on me, you will get it in the morning. So what I have decided is the way I distribute my work. In the morning, I do the creative work. In the morning, I do what it takes, the sharpest aspect of me. In the afternoon, I do more mechanical things because my brain is not the same. Until I realize the biological clock that I have for myself, I found myself in many situations feeling exhausted because I was working with clients who, needed to meet very late at night. And so I have to start to set up boundaries. And yes, I still meet with some clients late because that's what works for them, but I don't do it every single day. I assign 1 or 2 days a week, which is foreseeable for me, is something that I can sustain instead of doing every day. And so what this has brought is more clarity, more creativity, and also more effectiveness in what I do. And one of the things that really is the compass of all this is the body, because the body will tell you exactly when something is off, either at the body level, like needing more sleep or more rest, or not, or in honoring your clock. But also if you are feeling emotional overwhelmed about something, a lot of times we suppress because we put this pretending attitude towards others, when in reality, if we relax and we allow the information to come in, if I start to feel awkward about something is off. And through meditation, for example, I have developed the awareness to be so much in tune with my body that when something is off, I realize right away. And this, what it does is allow me to make a decision. Should I continue forward with this feeling that it might increase? Or should I just take a step back and give myself a moment? Whatever, it is, if it's in a meeting, I might request to have just a little break, for example. And if that is not possible, I will move forward in the direction of the conversation that I can handle. But if I have to have an inner conversation before I move forward at a certain point, then I will give myself that space and I will request the space for that. So, you need to figure out what works for you. And also through the day, because I spend so much time here at the computer, it's so important that I take physical breaks. When I move the energy, I practice Qigong. I take walks. I take strolls when I remove my glasses so that way my sight can practice to look further out. So that way, I'm not constantly at a short distance. That is a good exercise for the mind as well. Singing, you don't want to hear me singing yet. Moving the voice, experiencing the vibration of certain sounds, it helps me to move the energy through my body and allow me to release it and use that as a cathartic expression of the emotions that need to be released and move through my body. So whatever it is that you need to light up or to have fun, you need to discern for yourself. This is all part of that practice of creating boundaries and practices that allow you to manage your energy wisely and intentionally. So the next thing I want to share with you is that as I start to practice these boundaries, I start to learn that they were not limiting, but actually they were unlocking the power within. Because you know what they do? They help you to stay focused. They help you to be intentional in every single thing you do. They help you to be truthful. And that's why that inner dialogue and that unsaid conversation, they are so important, because you bring that clarity from those conversations and then you implement the boundaries that support that intentionality. So another thing that I wanted to share with you about clients, because I have this sense of service, I was saying yes to everybody. And guess what? This is true for me and for you. I'm not for everybody, neither everybody's for myself. So I start to pre-qualify the people that I work with. And instead of saying yes and going over the limit, giving more and giving more and giving more, pouring into a place where there was no grit to hold it, because I was giving things that they were not meaningful to these people. So instead of giving more, what I started to do is listen more and asking the first question, the most important questions that allow them to pre-qualify themselves, so that way neither of us waste time. And through all these questions and lasering my message so it goes to the right people, to the right audience, to those who are waiting for me as the messenger to the solution that they've been craving for, I have saved a lot of energy. But that required a lot of implementation, a lot of truth conversation. And so through this, I have learned a big lesson of who I'm saying yes to. Not everyone, right? And yes, it's important to be kind, but also apply those boundaries in a kind way. And also understanding, that there is this big distinction between wishful thinking and implementation with intentionality. So, and also, talking about the background conversation, a lot of times I need to understand what is the impact that I want to create. Because a lot of times we have a dual one that is conscious and one is an unconscious. So I need to be very clear, who am I when I'm talking to you? Where I'm standing? What is the truth that I'm bringing forward, and how aligned I am with that truth? So it's very important that I understand what the big idea is in all this. What boundaries are not limiting me, but they're really creating the fuel that is unlocking the truth of myself and is allowing me to pre-qualify who I'm serving, and creating the boundaries that they allow me to give the impact and the best service that I can deliver, that is fully aligned with the fulfillment of the need of those that I serve and the service that I'm willing to provide. So now closing up, we have covered 3 key points. We have talked about the power of what is not being said, the stories that we tell of ourselves and how we can rewrite them, and how boundaries can become the strategy, not the sacrifice. So with this being said, we're going to close up right now, and I want to leave for you the little homework of journaling about all what we have unpacked today, and see how we can start to integrate these conversations in a way that it helps us out to create the impact, to maximize our resources, and to shift from being overwhelmed and exhausted to be in flow with life, with joy, harmony, and balance. So I would like to invite you that if you want to continue this conversation, feel free to write comments under this live event, but also to message me so we can have a conversation and start to unpack what your next steps look like, so you can start to claim your power back and start to be more intentional about what you do and the conversations that you need to recognize that they are taking place even though you're not aware of. So that way you can hold that truth and juice up all the power that is in it for you. So thank you so much for being with me today. I really want to appreciate this. And I'm really looking forward to continue with further conversations. We have a new event coming up on the 28th, and I'm really looking forward to your comments, to hear from you if you want to reach out to expand the opportunity for you and see how we can create a pathway for the solutions that you're searching for, and for future conversation. Thank you so much, and have a great afternoon.